Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Amud Aleph, 7 lines from the bottom. Our Gemara is in the middle of a discussion. There was a question that was asked and put forth before Rabbi Tanchum, the Min Noi. They asked him, can a person extinguish a flame for a chol sheyesh bo sakana? So although it seems to be obvious, but seems that the question was, if indeed it's better to then put out the flame, or to then metaltil the ner and take it outside in order to avoid extinguishing it. Al Koponim, Rabbi Tanchum brought a drasha to then open up his words and to build up to the answer to his question. Says the Gemara, Udeka'amri shloimoi, and that which the Kamar Shlomo, that Shlomo HaMelech said in the following pasuk in Koheles, Ki lekelev chai hu toiv min ha'arya hames, that a living dog is better than a lion who is dead. The simple understanding is that a person who is alive, since he still has bechira, he's greater than even a lion, a greater person, but who is dead. Kid Rav Yehuda Marav, Dom Rav Yehuda Marav. My dirsi, what's meant by the following pasuk, Hodieni Hashem Kitzi. David Melech says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let me know the end of my days. Umidas Yomai, and the measure of my days. Mahi, what it will be. Eda, let me know, Me Chodel Ani, when I will cease from living. Omar David from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David said before Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, Hodieni Hashem Kitzi, let me know my end. Omar Loi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Gzeiro Hu Melafonai, Shein Modin Kitzel Shel Basar Adam. I don't let the end be known for Basar Adam. What will they be? The Kitzel. Umidas Yomai Mahi, and what is the length of my days? The measurement. Gozra Hi Melafonai Shein Modin Midas Yomam Shel Adam. I have a Gezerah before me, a decree, said HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that I do not let known what is the person's length of his days. Ve'eid o machodel ani, and what is let me know when I will cease to exist. Omar Loi, b'Shabbos Tammuz, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you will die on Shabbos. Almost be'echad b'Shabbos, let me die on Yom Rishon of the days of the week, on Sunday, so that they can be tapil with me when I'm dying. Omar Loi, kvar higia malchus shlomoi, bincha ve'en malchus nogas bechaverta afilu kamelo nima. The malchus of your son Shlomo would already have arrived, and therefore one's malchus doesn't infringe on any other malchus, even at a hair's breadth. Almost be'erev Shabbos, so let me die one day before, so I won't infringe on Shlomo HaMelech's kingship. Omar Loi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in the pasuk, Ki toiv yoim bechatzeirecha me'olef. One day in your courtyard is better than 1,000. What is that verse referring to? Says the Gemara, toiv li yoim echa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, greater is one day she'ata yoshev v'oisek, by Torah, that you are sitting and engaging in the study of Torah. May elef oilo she'osi Shlomo bincho lahakri lefonei akamei hamizbeach, than 1,000 offerings that your son Shlomo will bring on the altar. And therefore you didn't want to makdim the death of David HaMelech even one day. So kol yoima the Shabto have a yasi v'goris kulo yoima. Every Shabbos, David HaMelech then would be engrossed in Torah study all of Shabbos from beginning until the end. Hahu yoimed the boy leminoch nafshei. That day came when it was time for his soul to be taken. Kom malach hamovis kamei v'lo yacholei. They lo have a posik pume begirso. The malach hamovis came and he wasn't able to take his life because he was engaged in the study of Torah, which was protecting him. Omar. So the malach hamovis said to himself, "My a'avilei, what shall I do?" Havale bustana acharei beise. There was an orchard behind the Melech's home. Also malach hamovis solik ubachish beilone. The malach went outside and he took and shook a tree from that orchard. Nofach lemechzi havasolik bedarga. So David HaMelech went out to see what was going on. Ifchis darga mitusei, and the darga then went from beneath him, causing him to then fall suddenly. Ishtik v'nach nafshei. David HaMelech was quiet, and at that moment when he was no longer learning Torah, the Malach HaMavis took his life. Sholach Shlomo lebei midrasha. Shlomo HaMelech, his son, sent the following 2 queries to the Beis HaMedrash. Abba Meis, Muto B'chama. My father lies down dead, and he's in the sun. Question number 1. V'kolavim shel Beis Abba re'evim. And the dogs of my father's home are hungry. Ma'esa. 2 questions. What should I do with my dead father who's lying in the sun? Now it's Shabbos. And secondly, what should I do with the dogs that are hungry? Sholchulei, they sent in the following answer from the Beis HaMedrash. Answering the second question first. Chatoich nevela v'hanach lefnei haklavim. Cut pieces of a dead carcass and give it to the dogs to eat. Va'avicha, in answering the first question, honach alav kikar oitinok v'tiltaloi. You can put a kikar, a loaf of bread, or a child on your father, and then agav, the loaf of bread, or the tinoik, you can carry your father, meaning without doing that, he's muktzah, and therefore you cannot carry him. So here we see the following, Lo yafa mar Shlomo, was it not good what Shlomo declared in Koheles, Ki lekelev chai hu toiv min ha'arye hames, that a living dog is greater than a dead lion? It was a way of expressing this concept that even a person in lower stature, like a dog, since he has his bechira while he's still alive, he's greater than even an aryeh, the king of the jungle who's dead. And therefore we see over here too, that David HaMelech, the great king who was lying dead, he couldn't even be moved because he was muktzah. And yet, the living dog, you can go ahead and cut up food, a dead carcass, and give it to them, and it's not muktzah, in order to then provide them to eat. And in regards to the question that was asked of Reb Tanchum, he now circles back and answers that question, whether you can extinguish a flame for a chod sheyesh bo sakana. Ner kruya ner, v'nishmaso shel adam kruya ner. A ner shel Shabbos is called a ner, and the ner, the neshama of a person, is also called a ner, like it says in the pasuk. The pasuk declares, ner elokim nishmas adam. So he says, mutav ticha bener shel bosav adam. Better to then extinguish a ner shel Shabbos, mibnei ner shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then extinguish the ner of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, referring to the neshama of a person. Therefore, of course, the answer is positive. You can, yes, extinguish a ner for a chol sheyesh bo sakana. And therefore, if need be, it's better to then extinguish the ner than to metaltel the ner and take it out, assuming that it's going to then bother the chol sheyesh bo sakana and cause him to perhaps then be in a state where he could then minimize or lose some of his lifespan as a result of being scared off because of the ner. Omar Rabbi Yehuda Bered Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas Mishnei Rav Bikshu Chachamim Lignoi Sefer Koheles Shedvarav Sosrin Zeh. The Chachamim wanted to goines, to bury the Sefer of Koheles because of the various contradictions that are found in the Sefer. So why didn't they bury Sefer Koheles? Because the beginning is Divrei Torah and the end is Divrei Torah, and therefore, then certainly in the middle you'll find Divrei Torah as well. It says in the passage in the beginning of the Sefer, what is the advantage of a person's toil that he toils underneath the sun? the ein loy. Underneath the sun, it's not going to be a yisroin, it's not going to be an advantage. Koidem shemesh yeshlo. However, before the shemesh, referring to the Torah, when he's omel, when he's toiling over the Torah, certainly that will be a yisroin, that will be an advantage to him. Soifay divrei Torah dichsiv. In the end of the Torah, it's written, Soif davar hakol nishma. At the end, everybody will hear, Es Elokim yorei ves mitzvos of shmor. Elokim he feared, and his mitzvahs he guarded. Ki ze kol ha'adam, because that is all of man. Ask the Gemara, my ki ze kol ha'adam. What is his emphasis at the end of the verse? That this is all of man. Omar Rabbi Eliezer, kol ha'olam kuloi lo nivra ela bishvil zeh. The entire world was only created for this person, this Adam, who has Yira Shomayim, and also Shomer the mitzvahs of Hashem. That means all of the world is made in order to serve such a person. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana Omar, Shokol zeh kineged kol ha'olam kuloi. This man who has Yira Shomayim and is Shomer the mitzvahs, this man is equal to the entire world, because the entire world is going after materialism and he's going after spirituality. So he's a world to in itself. His world is equal to the entire world. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana Omar, Shimon ben Alzai Oimer, Va'amrei la Shimon ben Zoyma Oimer, Lo Nivra Kol ha'olam kuloi el litzavois lezeh. The entire world was only created in order to then join, to then connect to this man who has Yira Shomayim as Shomer the mitzvahs of Hashem. In other words, they're there to learn, to connect themselves to this man and learn from his ways, to be Yarei Shomayim, to have fear from Hashem and to perform HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mitzvahs and serve him. Ask the Gemara, Umay Dvar Sosin says, now that we said that the beginning and the end of Koheles are talking about Torah, so what is the stira? What is the contradiction to those psukim? Ksiv, it says, Toiv kas mischok. It says in the Koheles, in one pasuk, greater is anger than laughter. V'ksiv lischok amarti mahoilol. And it says in another verse, to laughter I said it is praiseworthy. So is kas better than laughter, and therefore laughter is not considered to be praiseworthy? Or is indeed laughter praiseworthy? Ksiv, it says, Vashabachti ani es simcha, and I will praise simcha. V'ksiv, it says, L'simcha ma ze oise. What does simcha do? Lo kasha. In other words, if he praises simcha, means simcha has a great purpose. On the other hand, it says it's purposeless because he doesn't then say what it has to do. Ma ze oise. What is it going to then do? It's inconsequential. Answers the Gemara, Lokasha, it's not a difficulty. Toiv kas mischoik. Greater is anger than laughter. Toiv kas shekois HaKadosh Baruch Hu al hatzadikim b'olam hazeh. Mischoik shemesachek HaKadosh Baruch Hu al rishoyim b'olam hazeh. Greater is the anger that HaKadosh Baruch Hu then shows the tzadikim in this world than the laughter that he shows the rishoyim in this world. What about the verse that says, and laughter is praiseworthy? That's referring to that's the laugh that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will show the tzaddikim in the world to come. Then we had another contradiction for Shabachti ani es simcha, and I will rejoice, I will praise the joy, the simcha. Zu simcha shel mitzvah. That's referring to simcha shel's mitzvah. V'le simcha ma ze oise. And the pasuk says, and simcha, what will it bring? What is it going to do? Zu simcha she'eino shel mitzvah. That's simcha that's not consequential. In other words, what about the simcha shel chayim? Is that simcha that is not consequential? Or is that simcha shel mitzvah? The answer is, of course. When Simchas HaChaim is recognized as Baruch Hu's chesed in all that he does for a person in general and for him specifically, then certainly that brings to then greater avodas Hashem. That's considered Simcha Shel Mitzvah. But the Simcha She'eina Shel Mitzvah, that's talking about Simcha that's inconsequential. Lamedcha, to teach you the following, She'eina Shechina Shora, that the Shechina does not rest Loi mitoich atzvus, not amongst that which is somebody who is saddened, in gloom. Lo mitoich atzlus, and not a person who is lazy. V'lo mitoich schoik, and not amongst laughter of inconsequence. V'lo mitoich kalus roish, and not in lightheadedness. Lo mitoich sicha, lo mitoich dvarim batelim, not in terms of chatter and not in words that are inconsequential. Elo mitoich dvar simcha shel mitzvah, only amongst simcha shel mitzvah. Shenemar says, V'ata, and now kchulim, bring me menagen, a musician, v'menagen hamenagen, v'ati alav yad Hashem. And once he then brought his spirits up through the music that caused him to then lift his spirits up, that brought him the Shechina, the Yad Hashem, on Elisha. Omer Rav Yehuda, v'chein ledvar halacha. And similarly, when it comes to dvar halacha, a person also needs simcha. Omer Rav, v'chein lechalom tov. And also then to produce a chalom tov, a person should then go to sleep in a state of simcha. Eini asked the Gemara, in regards to then what Rav Yehuda said, v'chein ledvar halacha. Omer Rav, Gidol Omer Rav, he himself said, Rav said, Kol talmid chacham sheyosheh lifnei rabbi. Any talmid chacham who sits before his rabbi, ve'ein sisoisav noitzvois mar tichaveno, and his lips are not dripping, so to speak, with the bitterness of awe in front of his rabbi, then they shall be singed, those lips. Shenemar says, sisoisav shoshanim noitzvois mor oiver. Al tikrei mor oiver, elamar oiver. It should refer to then the bitterness of that, all that should pass over him. Al tikra shoshanim, the roses, ela sheshoinim, rather that they are studying. So therefore, the student who sits before his Rebbe, he should be in awe, not in a state of joy in front of his Rebbe, that would be lightheadedness. Says the Gemara, no, lokasha. We're talking about the Rebbe should be then in a state of simcha, whereas the Talmud should be in a state of awe. They're both talking about the Rebbe. The Rebbe should, on the one hand, be in a state of simcha, and the other hand should be in a state of awe. Velokasha, and it's not a difficulty. Before he opens up, beginning his divrei Torah and his shir in limud, then it should be in a state of simcha. But once he then begins in his teaching, then it should be in a state of awe. Then when Rabbah came before the Rabbanon, Omar Milsa de Bedichusa Ubadchi Rabbon, he began his lecture in the Shir of Torah with a light words of a joke that would then uplift the students and open up their hearts. Lesoif, afterwards, Yosif be'emta uposach b'shmaitza. Then he would sit with awe and he would then open up the sugya. Says now the Gemara, turning over to the Sefer Mishlei. Va'af Sefer Mishlei bikshu lignois. Shahayu dvar soisun ze et ze. Also in regard to the Sefer Mishlei, they wanted to then also put and bury it into the ground because of the contradictions that they found in the Psukim of Mishlei. Umibnei ma lo niganzuhu. Why didn't they bury it? Omre, they said, Sefer Koheles lav aininon vishk achinon taima. Gabe Sefer Koheles, didn't they also want to bury it? And yet they analyzed it and they found reasons to explain what seems to be a contradiction. Hachanami lainin. Also over too, in Mishlei, they also then will analyze and then find the necessary answer to the contradictions. Umay dvar v'soisim zeh, a word with the psukim that seem to be contradictory. Ksiv, it says in the Pasuk, I'll read the entire Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Al ta'an ksil ki ivaltoi. Do not answer the fool like his foolishness. Pentishve loy gam ato, lest you be like him. V'ksiv, and it says another pasuk in Mishlei, and I'll read this also in its entirety. Aneksil ki ivaltoi. You shall answer the fool like his foolishness. Pen yeh chacham be'enov, lest he be a chacham in his own eyes. So should you answer the fool, or should you not answer the fool? Lo kasha, the Gemara says, it's not a contradiction. Ha b'divrei Torah, ha b'mili da'alma. When it's talking about divrei Torah, you should answer the fool. When it comes to words, mili da'alma, worldly matters, so then you can leave it. And therefore that's actually meduyak in the pasuk itself. When it says, don't answer the fool, because if you answer him in worldly matters, then pentishve loy kamato, you'll then also be equated to him, lowering down yourself to his standards and his arguments and discussing things on his level. And therefore leave the worldly matters aside. And when it comes to Torah matters, then answer the fool. Because otherwise, pen yeh chacham be'enov, the rest of the pasuk says, lest he be a wise man in his own eyes, thinking that he's correct. And therefore, he put a hole in the argument of the Torah, chas v'sholom. Says the Gemara, Ki ha de'ahu da'os lekami de Rebbe. The Gemara then shows how there's somebody who came before Rebbe and spoke about worldly matters, and Rebbe then was not misyaches, he didn't answer him back. Omar lei, the man said to him, Ishtecha ishti, your wife is my wife, ubonecha bonai, and your children are my children. In other words, your children are mamzerim, because your wife is my wife, and not your wife. Omar lei, Rebbe said to him, instead of answering him back, he said, Ritzoincha shetishte koshel yayin, would you be interested in drinking a glass of wine? Shasa upaka, the foolish man drank and he died. Hahudas lekame de Rabbi Chia, there was somebody similarly who came before Rabbi Chia. Omale imcha ishti, your mother is my wife, ve'ata b'ni, and you are my son. And therefore, he's saying that indeed, that he's a mamzer. Would you like to drink, he said, a kos of wine? Shasa upaka, he drank and he died. Omar Rabbi Chia, ahane le tziluse le Rabbi. The tefillah of Rabbi helped him, the lo lishve b'nei mamzeri, that his children would not be mamzerim. The Rebbe ki hava matzli Omar. When Rebbe would daven, he would say the following tefillah: Yehi ratzon milfonecho, Hashem Elokeinu, shetatzileni hayoim, me'azei ponim u'me'azus ponim. Azus ponim is a reference, brazen face, to mamzerim, and he would say that Kadosh Baruch Hu save me from azei ponim and azus ponim, for those who are brazen faced, even those mamzerim, and those who give a type of connotation that others are mamzerim. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved me from them. And therefore, indeed, he was saved. Says the Gemara, B'divrei Torah mahi, in regards to Torah, that a person should answer a fool back, what is it referring to? Ki hodi yasi Rabbi Gamliel, the Gemara brings examples. For Rabbi Gamliel, v'kodarish asida isha sheteled b'choyoim. Rabbi Gamliel expounded that a woman will give birth in the future, in Messianic times, b'chol yoim, every day. Shinamaz, it says, hara v'yoledes yachtov. He darshaned the pasuk to say that the one who conceived and gives birth together. And therefore, on the same day, ligleg alov oisei talmid, he had a talmid that made fun, who mocked the words of Rabbi Gamliel. Omar, he said, Ein kol chodesh tachas hashemesh. He mocked it. He said, doesn't the pasuk say Ein kol chodesh tachas hashemesh? There's not going to be nothing new underneath the sun. Omar lei. So Rabbi Gamliel said to the Talmud, Bo va'aracha dugmasim ba'olam hazeh. I'll give you a dugma, a semblance of this here in this world, even before Messianic times. Nofak ach ve'lei tarnegoles. He went out and he showed him a tarnegoles who has many eggs, and they are fertilized different times. Visu Yossi Rabbi Gamliel v'kodarish. Similarly, another incident, Rabbi Gamliel was darshaning the following pasuk: Asidin ilono shemotzin. In the future, he says, in times of Mashiach, ilonos will then give forth peiros b'kol yom, fruits every day. Shinema, as it says in the pasuk, v'nasa anof v'asa pri, and the anof, the branch, will bring forth, and it will cause to then have peiros, have fruits. Ma anof bekol yoim, says Ram Gamliel, just like an anof sprouts its shoots on a daily basis, apri bekol yoim, so too it will also produce fruits on a daily basis. Ligleiv alav oisoy talmid, that Talmud mocked Rabbi Gamliel. Omar says, "V'haksiv en kol chodesh tachas hashemesh." Omar lei bo v'aracha tugmasim b'olam hazeh. Rabbi Gamliel says to the Talmud, "I'll show you a dugma even in today's time." Nofak achvei lei tzolaf. He went out and he showed him a tzolaf tree, which has different stages, 3 different types that have edible things on that tree, which constantly renews itself. Visu Yahiv Ram Gamliel, a third incident, Vikadarish, Asidin Eretz Yisrael, Shetoitzi Gluska Ois Uklei Melos. In the future, Eretz Yisrael is going to produce gluskos, little rolls, and also woolen begodim from the ground. Shnema says, Yihi Pisas Bar Ba'aretz. There'll be an abundance of grain in the land. Ligleg alav oiso Talmud. That Talmud mocked Rabbi Gamliel. V'omar says, "En kol chodesh tachas hashemesh." Omar le Rabbi Gamliel turned to him and said, "Bo v'aracha dugmasim b'olam hazeh." I'll show you an example, a semel of this in this world, even pre-messianic times. Nofak achvele kemein upitriois. He showed him mushrooms growing from the ground, which don't require a time of production, but come already from the night before, the next morning already produced as a mushroom. Va'achle milaz navra bar kaira. And he showed him also these woolen-like things that were coming from the kara tree. And therefore that also shows how the woolen begodim, clothing, will also then develop even from the ground.